right. Bram Radio, episode number what? 14? 16?
Yeah. Wow.
Dude, we're veterans.
We're doing it.
We're veterans. I got some buddies out there like episode number like 2,500, you know?
They say if you make it past 9, you're going to be successful.
Is that what they say?
That's the
For podcasting?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? That's the number.
That's the number.
Welcome to Bram Radio. We're so glad that you guys are here. Today's guest, I'm going to get to in a minute. But before that, I want to make sure that you start watching our website, which is BramRadio.com. You'll want to look at, we got some really cool merch coming up. We got some stuff. Everything that's going to be on there is stuff that's going to be very useful. So it's going to be things like, either it's very useful for like day-to-day life, or it's bespoke. It's something that is handmade. And I'm not talking about like, oh, here's a handmade keychain and here's a dream catcher for your mirror. Yeah. No, this is like a handmade utility knife, right? These things are legit, made by a Navy SEAL buddy of mine. The handle is handmade. The blade is handmade. This thing is so sharp it'll shave. You could take strands of hair and you could just take three whittles out of a strand. These things are insanely sharp. They're gonna be very useful. We have some pretty cool whiskey glasses coming up. I think we got some belts coming online pretty soon. We got some pretty cool stuff. We got some really interesting cell phone chargers, and they'll all have the awesome Bram Radio stamp on it. So you'll want to have that because your friends are going to be super jealous that you have it. Now we think we got beanies, we got some hoodies and stuff like that I think we're going to start working on pretty soon. That stuff's not going to be up yet, but pretty soon we're going to have the knives up. We'll have some whiskey glasses up, things like that. So cool. I am all stoked to have our dude today, Mr. Clark Bartram.
All right. Woo!
So, a little bit about Clark. Clark and I met in 1997, and we met, we started working out together. How did we meet? Like, what was the impetus of that?
It was Rutherford was leaving the show. I had the show Shipshape on the Armed Forces Network,
right?
And they needed another badass Navy SEAL.
No, they needed a black dude.
They needed a black dude.
They needed a black
dude. Fill
dude.
the quota.
Yeah.
So they filled it with you, and that's how we met.
That's right. So, oh man, and that was pretty weird. It was for Armed Forces Radio and Television Network, and I remember it was like how to do the push-up, how to do a proper sit-up, how to do the basic curl, how to do wear some good shoulder exercises and stuff like that. We always brought in people from the fleet to help out with that.
Yep.
It was,
remember the intro too is like, welcome to Shipshape Shipmate. I'm Clark Bartram, former Marine, and I'm Jeff Bramstead, former United States Navy SEAL, and that was the intro to it all the time. Then we were on different locations, whether it was on the deck of an aircraft carrier or with a helo squad or something like that, and we were exercising with all of these people who should have been in shape already.
right.
Many of them not being in shape, but they wanted to take two people who were in shape and continue to remain in shape to be in the fact that I had that show after not even being in the Marine Corps for as long. I got out in 1984, but I met Jeff Fallon, the PA, Public Affairs Officer, PAO.
Yeah.
And somehow we managed to get me a TV show on Armed Forces Network. And
I remember the phone call that I got at the team because I was trying to get another platoon. I had just come home from my third deployment, and they said, I was in the career counselor's office because he was a buddy of mine, and I was just like, I just want to get another platoon. I just want to get out of here again. Just want to get back to work. And he's like, yeah, about that. So I heard a little bit of rumblings going on. I was like, what? And he said, I think you need to go down to Warcom, but give it a day or two. Let me figure it out. Well, you don't leave that sit on in a team guy's head for a while. So I go straight to the Master Chief's office, and I was like, what's going on? What is this? And he said, they're doing a big kind of recruiting push, and they really want to get minorities in front of the camera so they can know that it's okay and that they have an open door to be able to go and do something that's high level, like in the SEAL teams, and be a military apex predator, And they just, and I was like, I was not for it. I was like,
Funny.
no. So then I went over and met with Mr. Fallon, and he's like, oh, you got to meet Clark. He's great. Now I remember, yeah. He goes, you got to meet Clark because he's great. You guys are going to get along great. And he wasn't wrong, and it was fun. That was a lot of fun doing that. But you guys might remember when I had Greg Wark on here, and he was one of the first couple episodes that we did 2 episodes together, and we were talking about traumas and all those things that sometimes can lead to some of the reasons why men feel like they're failing in life. And we really got down to the meat of it. So I met Dr. Greg through Clark, because Clark and I were working out in a gym, and he had his pastor at the time show up, and it was Greg, and Greg came up to me, and that was when he started talking to me about, there's this thing I want to talk to you about. Do you have a minute? And I said, well, hurry up, because I'm in the middle of a workout. And I probably leaned in a little bit, probably had some angry eyebrows because I was pretty angry at the time.
Yeah.
And he said, let's I know God wants to use you in an amazing way. He wants to he's going to use you in the film industry. He's going to use you. He's going to give you a platform that's even greater than the one that you already have that you're not even using. And he's going to use that. And he started talking all this craziness to me at the time.
Yeah.
And, man, it was maybe a year later. Sure enough, I got a phone call to go do a stunt on a movie. And I right away called him. I'm like, you want to know what just happened to me? I just got this phone call. And he wasn't surprised. He was like, yeah, I told you that would happen, remember?
Yeah, you wanted no part of that God stuff at the time.
No.
You're like, dude, leave me alone.
Yeah.
You don't know what I've just gone through in my life. I'm angry at everybody, and if you don't get out of my face, I might even punch you. But,
yeah.
Thank God for his boldness and his willingness to step into a discomfort and tell you what he felt.
Yeah.
And to your point right now, it all happened, right? I remember you calling me and telling me, hey, I got this part in this movie, and I actually kind of shot it down a little bit. I'm like, well, don't expect it to happen all the time, and I felt bad when I hung up the phone that day. I'm like, why am I stealing this guy's dream from him? You know what I mean? Probably because I was jealous. Maybe I wanted to be doing the same thing, but you went on and did a ton of stuff.
21 years. I just retired. Well, I retired in COVID.
Yeah.
But again, I was 50 at the time, and I have no desire to be lit on fire and thrown downstairs anymore. Just give it. See that 21-year-old kid over in the corner? Yeah, he's hungry. Let him do it. And he will heal fast. Me, not so much. My knees don't work. I'm bone on bone now. I haven't ran in years. I used to be a pretty decent runner, and not anymore.
Getting old ain't for sissies. That's what my dad used to say all the time.
Nope. But I remember, man, I had so many memories and stories I always tell about things that I would have never been exposed to had I not met you. One of them that the first time that I ever saw anybody speak at any kind of men's event was you. And it was you and
James DeMello?
No, it was at Greg's church.
Okay.
I think it was you. I think it was Greg Ray.
Yeah.
And you and I had talked a lot. You knew a lot of my background and everything else. And you got up there and you basically were just talking to me the whole entire time. And I felt like I was the only guy in the room, which was awesome, and that was my first real exposure to what men's ministry, how powerful it can be, or just dealing with men's issues and how powerful that can be, and the things that are necessary and needed in that arena, because guys aren't taught. We don't talk. We just don't talk. We're quiet. We just I'm going to suffer in silence, and that just doesn't work all the time.
Yeah. And, that's how you should feel when you're in an event. You should feel like that person is talking to you and you alone, even to the point where you walk up to them and say, come on, bro, like, seriously, why are you telling my stuff to everybody? When it's coming from the heart and ultimately coming from God, and you're a vessel allowing yourself to be used to speak these words that are meant to be healing. Because we all have trauma, and if we're vulnerable and we admit that, that's where the true healing can start to begin. And I'm very proud of the fact that you have taken that mantle and run with it to a very high degree, you know, now building out your coaching program and all of the speaking that you've done. And most recently watching you on my Zoom call with my men, sitting back, just so proud of the fact to have watched you through this whole evolution of how you've become the leader that you are today. I mean, not that you haven't been the whole time, but now it's on a much higher level, man. So that's just,
yeah. Thanks for that.
yeah.
So tell us about you. Tell us the Clark Bartram story. Just to give us the short, especially getting into the fitness stuff and some of the things that you've encountered and some of the just tell us about that piece of it.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was born a poor white child in Canton, Ohio. Grow up, realized I wasn't meant for the steel mills. And while they're great people, blue collar workers, I appreciate all of that. But something inside me told me that wasn't the place for me. I knew there was more, but I didn't know what. I didn't even know I knew that there was more, but something inside my gut said, you need to get out of here. But because we were poor, we had nothing. I was just having a conversation with my best friend back in Canton, Rich, and we were so naive. We didn't know about college. Like, no one ever said, what college are you going to? And the only option I had was going into the Marine Corps. I saw a guy come in and dress blues out of the corner of my eye in the lunchroom, and I looked, and I'm like, wow, that's what I want to be. And I went up, and everybody else was talking trash to me, like, really, dude, you're going to join the Marine Corps? I'm like, yes. So I joined the Marine Corps, did well.
I love it. Unapologetic.
Just, that was it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, at the AFI station, I'll never forget it. There, you know, all the people at the AFI station, the news came in, and they were looking, there was like an admiral or a general or someone there, because everybody was making a big fuss. And they were looking for an individual to give one word to describe why they were joining whatever branch they were joining, because everybody's there, right? So I see him pointing at me, and this guy and all of this just beautiful representation of what the military is, with all of the medals and just shininess and pride and all of that. They walked up to me and they said, hey, will you be on the news? I was like, well, do I have a choice? But I didn't know, right? So they said, in one word, describe why you want to join the Marine Corps. And I said, patriotism, without even thinking about it. And I didn't even really know what that was at the time. I just, it felt like I knew, but not at the level I know now. So anyway, that happened. I went through, got out, needed a job, and looked in the paper. And like, all of this is fate. As I look back on it, it was all preordained and destined, because my orders, I graduated meritoriously out of boot camp. Me and my cousin got separated. He went on to Cherry Point.
You guys went through boot camp together?
We went through boot camp together.
Ah, nice.
And I graduated with honors. He barely made it out.
Right.
So we get out, and out of boot camp, he goes to Cherry Point. I stay home for an extra 30 days for recruiter's duty. So during recruiter's duty, you know, I went into the high school that I graduated from and helped recruit people to come in. And then I get my orders. And I look at the orders, and they say, go to El Toro, California. I'm like, yes, California. I'm from Ohio. I'm going to California. So I show up, and the guy who I was checking in with said, dude, you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be in Cherry Point. I said, well, it says El Toro. He goes, we don't go by that. We go by the MCC code right next to it. This is 122. Your orders clearly say 123, which was Cherry Point. Mm-hmm. I'm like, think about that for a second. The dude typing, because it was typewriters back then.
Right.
Probably someone said, hey, Bram, and he turned his head and he hit a 3 instead of a 2. And it altered the course of my life. And here I am today. Had he hit a 2, who knows where I'd be right now. So that happened, and then I'm getting out, needed a job. I look, and it says, instructor needed, Family Fitness Center. I'm like, yeah, I'll work at a gym. So I go to apply for this job at the gym, and the guy says, come back in 2 weeks. So I come back in 2 weeks. And then come back in 2 weeks. He did it for like 4 times. By now, I'm needing money. I'm trying to rent an apartment. They say, where do you work? I'm like, all right, okay, let's play this game. Family Fitness Center. Who's your boss? Danny Della Rosa. What's the phone number? 439-4404. I'll never forget it. That's the number. So the next time I walk in, he's like, I like you. I need you in sales. He said, but I need you to be an instructor first to kind of figure this out. So I was an instructor, met Terrence Cooper there. You remember Terrence? I think, do you remember, you know Terrence?
So that name
Black
sounds
dude. He's the praise and worship leader at North Coast.
yes,
Church.
yes.
Met Terrence there and worked my way through that. Got involved in bodybuilding. Everyone's like, Ernie Miller, another black dude, just a bunch of black dudes in my life right now. A lot, very like pivotal moments. CB, you should compete in bodybuilding. You could be really good. I'm like, I don't want to be a bodybuilder. Chicks don't like bodybuilders. They're all big and stuff. I just want abs. That's all I want. And I played rugby in the Marine Corps, so we were always ripped. After practice, we'd come and pose in the mirror, and I was shredded. I didn't want to get big, but did the contest, ended up winning it. And then from there, I saw James DeMello on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, and it said world's most handsome bodybuilder. And I'm like, I'm better looking than this dude. I need to get on a cover someday. So from the bodybuilding, I saw all of these photographers taking a picture of a guy, and I'm like, why aren't they taking pictures of me? So I went up to the photographer. I said, you should be taking a picture of me. I look as good as this guy. She's like, you're right. Let's do it. So I went and did a photo shoot, got in the magazine, and then that took off, and then it just became a thing. Then one day I was selling sheepskins by the seashore. I had that sheepskins shop out there. A buddy of mine walked by and said, hey, this girl named Kiana is auditioning for her TV show. And this is, I don't know, 94, 95. So I auditioned. I get that. I'm on Kiana's Flex Appeal on ESPN for more time than they would normally allow you, because they don't want people consistently on there, because she was the star, so it was always different people. But they liked me, and I kept coming back. And then people kept saying, Clark, you need your own TV show. And I'm like, great, but how do you do that? So enter Bill Likens. We're at the gym that I train at today, pilot. And he says, hey, I got this money. We're watching one of my episodes at the gym. You're really good on TV. You should have your own show. I'm like, everyone says that, but how do I do it? He said, well, I have some money set aside for another thing. I'll put that money towards this. I said, well, there were a bunch of people said that they worked for me. So I called them. He got the money. We shot a pilot for American Health and Fitness. And then that became a thing. Yeah. And then the Armed Forces Network thing came. And then the magazine covers started to come. And then movies. And then, boom, that's kind of like.
I think with yours and Bill's show, I think I was on the beginning of it.
Yeah, you were. Yep.
I was swinging a golf club. I didn't know the first thing about how to swing a golf club.
Me neither. And we both look all stiff.
We were on concrete, and I remember they said, just hold the golf club something like this. So I'm like holding the golf club, like now just kind of swing at the ground, but it's concrete, and this is that guy's club, and he loves to golf. Do not hit the club on the ground. So I literally was like I had this thing. And so as I start learning a little bit about golf, I'm still not a golfer. But I can count on one hand the amount of times I've even had a golf club in my hand. But I know more about it now than then. And so the after a few times seeing that, I was just like, it was so cringy. It was super cringy. I think I did a water thing too.
Yeah, or maybe in basketball. I did a basketball thing with the girl, and I give it cheesy. Like, that whole thing was so cheesy, that whole intro.
Yeah.
But no one was doing it. We created a television show out of nothing, and it aired all over the world, and it did extremely well. We never made any money. But, that's a lesson in perseverance, because we shopped that show around all of the networks, and nobody wanted it. Then we went a second time around, and we went to Fox, and Fox had just fired their VP of programming or whatever it was, and a new guy came in, and he loved it, and he said, we'll take 16 episodes or whatever the thing was. So we had no money. It's like, okay, now we have this order for 16 episodes of this show. Where do we get the money? So we went to Bill Cashell, Dr. Bill Cashell, the dentist, and he loaned us the money, which I still don't think he's ever been paid back, and he never will now because Bill's no longer here.
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting ride at the time.
Did you have Slim Fast?
Yep, Slim Fast.
Slim Fast got on board. I remember doing, I had one go at it. I remember one day you were just like, hey, Bram, you got a decent physique, man. You should try it. Let me hook you up with Rick Schaff. Remember Rick Schaff?
Yep.
And so he came out to the SEAL teams, and we did this whole photo shoot on the obstacle course, and it was me and John Smith, I think we were out there, and I did this whole diet down for it. I remember when that thing was done, I was like, I am never doing this again, ever. And I remember I showed up for the shoot, and Rick Schaff had a bottle of red wine and he had a jar of peanut butter sitting there. I was like, what's that for? And he's like, I want you to get a glass of red wine. I want you to eat as much of that peanut butter as you want. I had eaten like a really good meal. It wasn't chicken that was like boiled or some like ridiculous like diet down thing. And I drank a glass of that red wine, and dude, it was like a instant full body pump. It was like veins are sticking out of my arms. I was just like, what happened? He's like, you go ahead and eat the peanut butter. He goes, you should have done that first, but go ahead. So I had a whole bunch of peanut butter. It was delicious. I was just hammering down this peanut butter with a spoon, just eat it out of the jar. And it was just like, everything was just like, ugh. I was like, man, I hope I don't have to take a smash because I cannot wipe my own ass right now. You know, it was like, I just felt like I was huge, but I was like 170 pounds.
I forgot I introduced you to Rick Schaff. It's so funny when you look back over all the years, decades now, of relationship and opportunity and all of the different things in life that happen from one meeting. One person could truly, like the orders that day, change my life. Meeting with one person, like you met with Greg, truly altered the entire course of your life, man. You know, who knows where you would have been if you were still angry, you didn't allow some man to speak into your life regarding the trauma that you had at the time and possibly still might be working through, because that's something that takes a long time. And I think that's important for people to understand the amount of time it takes to work through some of these things that are really seated in our soul, and having someone that you can trust like you and like Greg Wark and all of your other coaches, that's enormous, man. So I'm so excited to get into more of that with you about what that looks like, and the fact that there are so many men out there who do have trauma. But yeah, that just blew me away when you said Rick Schaff. I'm like, yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Rick Schaff.
Totally forgot about that. I just talked to him the other day.
And, you know, back then, too, it's like we were training differently than everybody else was training. There was a lot of these guys out there, they're just big, dumb muscle training, right? It was just bench press and squats and stuff like that, which that has its benefit. That's awesome. But we started doing the core stabilization stuff.
Remember, started studying Paul Chek.
Paul Chek, yeah.
You went through level 1 and level 2 with him.
Yep. And Corey.
Yeah.
Remember Corey?
Corey Knowles.
Corey was involved in that, and people would watch. Well, they would watch me at the gym in Coronado, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Prehabbing, baby, prehabbing." But then when you and I would work out, I remember we had this one workout that Clark and I would do, where it was a chest workout, but we would sit there, we would both stand on those big, huge medicine balls, those big ones, stand up with the 65
centimeters.
Yep. And we would stand there, we have a 16-pound medicine ball, and we would just chest pass it back and forth. And we're, 6-7 feet apart, and it's just trying to knock each other off the other ball. And there's nothing but ellipticals and treadmills and everything else around us.
Dumbbells and weights and machines. And
everything that can hurt you in a gym.
And a cement floor to land on.
And we went until somebody burned in, and it was, we'd draw a crowd. We'd draw a crowd at the gym doing that type of stuff.
That was fun, man. I enjoyed that stuff. Like, even today, I still do stupid things that people are like, why do you do that? For me, that's what keeps me young. That's what keeps you vital is one, the competition is like, I ain't going down. You're like, I ain't going down. Well, then we're going to be here forever.
Yep.
And that was the attitude. And I think that there's a lot of that attitude missing in the world today because, I don't want to get on all this soft and all this sort of stuff, but I just don't see it as much anymore, that competition. Like when I go out and play football with my son, a guy lines up ahead of me. I'm like, you ready to go? I just challenged a D1 wrestler to wrestle. He looked at me, said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah." And this was on a Monday. I was going to be at the place till Friday, and this is a funny story. So Monday goes by, Tuesday, and we're working. And Friday comes, he invites me to his house. I go there, and he's got super successful guy. He's got a big gym, and on the side of the gym is wrestling mats. So we're in there working out, and he doesn't say a word. He's waiting to see if I am going to own up to my loud mouth. So we're getting ready to leave and say goodbye and all that. And I'm like, so what's up, bro? We doing this or what? He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And he looked at his buddy. He's like, turn off the music. And I was like, oh, no, here we go. So my shoulder still hurts to this day. He snapped my head down so hard and probably, tore a labrum or something in there. And this was 7 months ago. But I left with so much respect from that guy. And every time he refers to me in a situation where we're in a business meeting or something, he's like, I've never met someone as competitive as me until I met Clark. And I love that, man. That's what keeps me young.
Yeah. I know you said you didn't want to go the soft route, but right now we have a new generation of men coming up that are not competitive. Yeah. They might be competitive on Xbox or PlayStation, but I didn't fact check this because I don't care about fact checking things, but I was listening to it was a source that I respect, and it's a radio talk type thing, and they were talking about the state of men growing up now. And they said that 73% of the young fighting age males right now would not be able to enter the military because of their disqualification. Usually it's obesities, or it's maybe a lack of the ability to pass the ASVAB. It could be academic, or there's a physical, or they're just so out of shape that they couldn't go and pass the physical entrance exam. 35% of fighting age males, I don't know if it was males or if it was just fighting, like the age of people joining the military, men, women, I don't know what it is, but 35% of them have said in a poll that they would rather die than defend this nation. Which I was like, okay, so we went to that. We went to that extreme, that level. And so it's, if you, looking at the state of things, so like the competitiveness is gone. This morning, I do jujitsu every several days a week, at least. Yeah, these ears didn't come from sitting in cubicles. And it's on. I'm the oldest guy there. There's one guy that's older than me, and he's an amazing guy. We call him, his name is Jim, and he's this senior jiu-jitsu player. So good, very technical, and not super strong, but he still gets the job done. And his job, and he goes, my role is to roll with people. They're going to catch me, and I'm going to clean up the things that I know they could do better to catch me sooner next time. And I was just like, man, the humility of that. And I'm not wired that way. I'll clean. I might clean up something if you're brand new to this, and I'll help you like patch a hole in your game, but not before I run you over. Like, I'm going to run you over first, because that competitive thing. And then there's that dude that shows up, and he just burns me down every time. Well, that's the guy that I always want to train with now. That's the guy that and I'll sit there, I'll make eye contact with him, like, what's up, man? His next comment is always like, you ready? I'm like, let's go.
Dude, I love that, man. So when I was going, me and Mitch were going for a while, and you know how they'll pair you up. You go through all the drills, then they pair you up. And they were doing that, and the professor was on the other side of the room, and he was a brown belt at the time. And he's pointing to everybody. I'm like, you. And I was way stronger than him, and I could manhandle him for a while, but any good jiu-jitsu player is just going to wait it out and get you. And it's always fun being put in that position of, like, I'm not the baddest dude in the room. I like to think that I am, but being put in a position only makes you want to get better. Like when I coach my guys, I have them reach out to me every morning on a scale of 1 to 10 and give me where they're at on my 5 principles: mindset, meals, movement, community, and integrity. I said, no one's ever at a 10. If you give me a 10, then we're going to have a talk. Don't ever say you're at a 10. There's no one is operating at a 10. A 9 is even a high number, right? I say if you're at a 7 or above. But anyway, I just say that to say that there's always room for improvement. And that goes back to that whole thing with trauma. I think some of the reason we don't improve is because we're stuck, right? There's that whole idea of what do they call it, where you're stuck at a situation in life where you had the most trauma and you can't grow beyond that. There's a word for it.
I
Arrested development.
there you go. When someone has experienced that level of trauma, it's kind of like addictions and stuff like that. If they're not coached through that trauma, a lot of times their maturity, maybe emotional maturity, or their ability to interact in social exchanges is going to hold wherever they're at. If trauma happens, an addiction happens in a 15-year-old, and that addiction stays in place, their maturity level is going to stop. They're going to still grow as you know, they're going to be 16, they're going to be 17, hopefully, right? And but they're still emotionally going to be 14.
Yeah, that's that arrested development.
Right.
They're arrested and held hostage at that age, but they're going to grow. And then we have this expectation when we see someone because of their stature that they should be at that place emotionally. When they're not, you're like, something ain't right. Then you start asking questions, and most people are just going to hide from the honesty part of it and say, well, you know, at the age of 14, I was molested or whatever happened, and not allow the healing process to happen. So it's...
Yeah, and I remember Dr. Greg walking me through some of my traumas, and this is after relationship, leaving a wake of death and destruction in my path of just messes after messes. And he would always kind of walk me through stuff, but then one day I called him and I said, hey, I'll never forget, it was January of 2012. So if you think about it, it's 12 years ago. I woke up and I said, there's 1,000 pounds on my chest and I don't know what it is. What do I do? And he said, I have been waiting years, decades for you to come up and say that. So 2016, I've known the dude for 20 years at this point. I said, you would think that over the course of the last 20 years, you could have come to me and said, hey, Bram, we have something we need to deal with. He said, no. Yeah. He goes, this is something you need to come to this realization that it hurts enough for you to want to change. The pain to change is going to be less than the pain to stay the same. When that happens, now we can take some steps forward. He goes, I am so happy that today is here. And I remember what it was, and I had to go and deal with traumas. And for me, they were rejection traumas. And as soon as I dealt with those, the level of forgiveness that happened, to when I learned that forgiveness was going to be the catalyst first to be able to get through it, that broke the power of the trauma. And I really didn't even learn this until I really started getting in Greg's stuff about the trauma stuff that he's been developing over the last 30 years. Little did I know that I was a large part of the development of his program to be able to beat traumas. But now that I know it, you have to break the power of the trauma. And then you have to break the pattern of the trauma. If you break the power and you don't break the pattern, the power is going to come back. And it's going to come back stronger than it was before. It even says in the Bible that if you abandon that, right, and you leave it behind, and then you move forward in life, and then you give it an avenue of approach for that trauma, for that whatever, that pattern, whatever it was, to come back in your life, is going to come back 7 times stronger. And that's what I was feeling inside. I was just like, So I remember that vividly, that breaking that pattern. And I have so many friends recently that have been killing themselves, literally committing suicide. And one of them was this guy that was known, had written books on traumas and post-traumatic stresses. And he was walking guys through it. What he didn't do is he didn't break the pattern. He had broken the power, but he had not broken the pattern. And as a result of him not breaking the pattern, it became overwhelming for him, and he ended up killing himself. So yeah, it's a big, huge thing. But you're working with guys now. So tell me about your coaching thing that you're doing now.
Yeah, so the coaching program is called Maximize Man Elite, and you asked me when I came in, so tell me about it. You know, you're doing fitness coaching, and I don't really consider it fitness coaching. It's more lifestyle, and it's because anyone knows how to get in shape. Like,
wait, what's it called?
Maximize Man Elite.
I see what you did there.
Yeah,
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I love
all
it.
Of this stuff that we have comes from a mentor of ours, you know, back when we first met,
Yep.
Dr. Ed Cole. And it just happened. James even said, I wonder what Paul Cole will think of that, his son. I'm like, well, he should be honored by the fact that I've taken this mantle and this teaching, and we're still quoting this man who's been gone for 20 years now, however long ago he died. But Maximize Man Elite is taking the person as a whole, because you cannot separate the body, mind, spirit. I can't just tell someone, hey, get on the treadmill, eat white fish and asparagus, because they know this. They can go anywhere and get that. But what they don't get elsewhere is what I provide and what you provide. It's this ability to see beyond the words that are being spoken and the energy that is coming off of them when you're watching them on a Zoom call or in person. And God has just given me this unique ability to speak to men in a way that is just no bullshit. It's like, no. I have CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, guys that are surrounded by yes men. They see me online. They like my brash style. And when they come to me, that is continued, because I'm just going to be me 24, like you said, unapologetically. I don't care.
Yep.
You came to me. You wanted help. Now I'm going to help you. I owe you getting in shape. And that might include quitting your country club, stopping drinking, doing all of these things. Are you cheating on your wife? What's going on here? Because all of these things will manifest somehow, some way. And typically it's in your body. Right? You get heavier, you get high blood pressure, you get all of these different things. So because these guys allow me the privilege of speaking to them honestly, people get results like crazy. And they become maximized men. And it truly goes beyond like I literally never talk to them about fitness, because fitness is the last thing in the world that I need to be talking to them about. I need to be talking to them about all of these other things, which include traumas. I'll give you a real quick story that we were talking about this yesterday on my Zoom call, or Saturday. We had a guy that I do a thing called the CB Experience, because my business is CBX, Clark Bartram Systems, so CB Experience. These guys come to my house to spend a couple days because they see it on video all the time. It's like a movie set, right? They want to see the driveway, the gym, the office. So they stand at the end of my driveway and they run up one at a time. There's a lot of pageantry to it, and we really put a lot of thought into it. So one guy came running up, and we're all in a circle, and I'm welcoming them, and this guy just pops his top off. And he said, I've not been able to take my shirt off in front of anybody since I was 14 years old, because I had a coach tell me you had bitch tits or something like that. And it traumatized me. And this was the first time ever that I was able to take my shirt off. And we had another guy on Saturday that I said, your goal for when you show up here is to be able to pop your top in my driveway, just like Larry did. And that's the thing. Guys are ashamed to take their shirt off. Like, that blows my mind. Like, I can't wait to take my shirt off.
Right.
I'll pop my top right now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that's how we should be. I shouldn't be an anomaly at 60. You shouldn't be an anomaly at your age. And age really is an indicating factor of what is possible. And it's just, man, it's crazy. So, yeah, the program is doing well. I coach guys online from all around the world, and we have a community, a brotherhood. This is our sign it's like CBX. And it truly is a brotherhood that I know that if I were walking down the street with them and someone walked up to me and wanted to beat my ass, they would move me aside and say, we got it, coach. We got it. Don't you worry.
Nice. That's a tribe.
That's a tribe.
That's a tribe right there.
Yeah.
And I remember you're talking about, they talk to me about how, or I talk to them they allow me into their life. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to start pulling stuff off the shelf saying, you don't need this anymore. I remember that because I got to speak for one of your coaching sessions.
They still talk about you.
Do they really?
Oh, you killed it. That's why I was sitting back in so much pride. I'm like, look at this guy go.
Oh man.
Like you said, I was the first one you ever saw speak. I'm like, I need to learn something from Bram, because he's just everything tied together, and it was just so beautiful, man. I mean, you did such a great job.
Awesome. Thanks, man. But I remember watching because I had no idea because you had told me like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, something like that. Hey, can you do this? And I just did not get back to you. I just completely forgot. And then the night before, you're like, hey, so tomorrow morning, what do you think? I was like, well, yes. What am I saying yes to? Yeah, right. And you said, it's just a Zoom. Just get on there, talk about whatever, do your thing. And I all right, cool. I went to bed, got up the next morning, and I sat down and opened. And I was like, I got to do the Zoom. I have no idea what I'm going to say. And I opened it, and I was listening to the way that you were talking to these guys when you were introducing me, and I was sitting there, and I was to start taking notes because as you were going, I was like, now I get it. Now I know who who I'm talking to, because the first rule of public speaking. Rule number 1, know the room, know your audience, right? Rule number 2 is know the first thing you're going to say. So as soon as I knew the room, I see how he's doing this. Now I know the direction that I want to go. All I needed was the first thing. And then as I was going, I'll be like, okay, like I'm pointing to, I write that down because I'm in point number 1. And it all fell together, but it all because I was watching the way that they would respond to you. And guys are just kind of popping on. You're like, oh, hey, Larry. Hey, Chris. Hey, Mike. Hey, Johnny. Hey, Jim. And hey. And the one guy, hey, Clark, I want to tell you something. This happened to me. So one guy was on a treadmill while we were doing the Zoom, And so I remember looking at that going, this is a group of guys. These guys are ride or die for sure. It was an awesome, awesome group of guys. So if any of you are watching this, I want to say, man, that was an honor. It was so fun to meet you guys that day. And man, you won the lottery. Yeah, I don't know what the pay structure is, but you got a bargain if it was twice the price. So congratulations to you guys. So that coaching platform's going well, and it's growing, I would assume, and everything else. So what's the goal? Like, so if somebody goes through the coaching platform with you, and they get to a certain point, like how long does it last? And then is there an end to it, or is it just in perpetuity?
Well, like yours, it's in perpetuity, because typically when you leave a group, then that's where a lot of the problems start to come up. You see it in the military, you see it in football, you see it in any activity where there's a community. We were meant as humans to thrive in smaller communities, not these large mega churches and gigantic organizations, corporations. You need smaller groups. So we have all of our guys broken up in teams, team 3, team 4, team 1, team 2, because these guys all have military backgrounds. So ideally what happens is they go through 12 weeks, they make a massive transformation, and they become a coach. So I have 4 guys that are now coaches that have all graduated, we'll say, the program.
Love it.
Yeah, and they are over 50, and they're military guys. So they are fitting the description of what I want. But I want to go back to what you were saying a minute ago. What you were describing, as you well know, is just situational awareness. I knew that you would pick up on how I talk to those guys. That's why I knew I didn't need to download you a bunch of information. Like, I don't need to do this. So I'm aware enough of the room that when I'm speaking, I was intentionally doing that because I knew you were on the other end with no forethought, no meditated conversation. I knew you were doing what you were doing, and I knew you would jump right in. Because you're prepared, for out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Right.
You have that stuff built up in you. It's there at the ready. Just like a jiu-jitsu move is there at the ready. Just like jumping out, and if something happens 15,000 feet, you are ready for what's next.
Yeah.
That's how we operate. You don't think in the moment. You're already filing 5 things ahead in your brain. Like a good jiu-jitsu player is not thinking about the armbar. He's thinking about when this guy reacts to the armbar, what I'm going to do, and then he's thinking about that, and it's just this process. So that's how you are when you speak, and I knew that, and that's what I do with everybody, because I won't really allow anyone in that room to get in front of my guys, because I'm protecting them from messages that aren't going to make them maximized men.
Yeah. Maximized men. I love that title, and it didn't hit me the first time, but then it took a second to spin. And I was like, so Dr. Cole had a book called Maximize Manhood. That was just basically it is the go-by book and it's timeless, 100% timeless. And then he had another book that he had that I really just loved, and I read it, I don't know how many times, and I'm always referring to it. And it's called Sex, Money, and Communication.
I knew you were going to say that one. I didn't jump in.
Right?
Yep.
Sex, money, communication. To me, it's kind of like the 10 Commandments. Fight a sin that's not in the 10 Commandments. You can't do it. It's just not possible. You can't do it. But in sex, money, communication, find a reason why a marriage isn't going to fail and see if it doesn't attach to sex, money, or communication, right? You might avoid the sex, might avoid the money, but you're never going to avoid the communication, because everything lives and dies by communication. Everything in business and finance and relationships, it doesn't matter. I just had our ops guy here at Scott at San Diego, Woody. He just called me up one day. He goes, "Man, I need to know more. I need to know more about this. I have tools and I have abilities, and you're not using them. You need to tell me more." And I love it when my leaders stand up. Amber, she runs our school. She's come to me before and said, "Hey, okay," because I always ask them, "How am I doing? How am I doing as a leader? Am I what you need, or what do I need to do more of?" And when somebody can trust you as a leader, and they know that they can be brutally honest and not have to have me like come down and say, "Well, I can't believe you said that to me," and get all offended. I'm not going to get offended. I'm really hard to offend these days. Really hard to offend. Unless you're supposed to be training, but instead you decide to stay in bed, then I might get a little offended. But that's neither here nor there, and it might be an inside joke between me and one other person who shall go nameless, but it does rhyme with Sam. So he doesn't even think that's funny. He's 5 minutes. He's like, I'm really hard to offend. But when these guys come to me and they say that stuff, it almost fires me up, because I'm like, I get an opportunity to grow. I get to get better right now. And they're not coming at it from an angry perspective where they're saying you suck. They're saying is like, "I think it's awesome that you said that to me. Here's what I need to be able to do to be better for you." And and being a good leader is something that is like, when you're coaching your guys, right? There's a lot of leaders. I could tell by the rooms that the guys were sitting in, right? There's a guy that was sitting there, and he's the guy that got up to go get something from the back of the room, and I started making fun of him for doing that. And I was like, "Hey, you getting one for me? Whatever you're getting, It's guys like that. I could look at the rooms that they're in, and they're established rooms. I was like, these are guys who aren't the guys trying to figure out like, can I get another shift at the Home Depot, right? And nothing against the Home Depot. To me, it's my happy place. I love going to the Home Depot, and I love talking to the guys there because they know 10 times more than I do. But these are guys that have people that are counting on them, and they're saying, "I need to be the best version of me, because if I'm not the best version of me, then I'm going to let down the people that are in my tribe and in my family, because you guys have your tribe, but the tribes have tribes. The tribesmen have tribes of their own."
Yeah, those are the people that the program attracts for sure, because that's what I want. And I know that that's my gift, my calling, and my purpose. And like you, I want to be challenged. I'm always asking, how can I get better? What can I do? And that's something that I loved in my marriage. You talked about communication. I want to sit in front of a counselor and have that counselor say, "You need to do this." And I say, "Roger that. I got it. Let's go." And if both parties can do that, right, and with the idea of offense, we choose to take offense at things. We never need to be offended. The reality is we choose to be offended.
Yeah. Being offended is definitely a choice. One of the things that I always that on our coaching platform, one of the things that we're always trying to press our guys towards is, the people that are in your life, do they add value? Because for me, being a leader, and my time is so valuable, and there are so many people that are going to be a pull, and they're going to be taking resources out of you that are not, that I can't be losing these resources because these people over here that are really, like, how many times have you ever given someone advice and they're like, "Yeah, thanks," and then they bolt and they don't do what
every time,
right? But with coaching, it's a little different, because now they're putting their resources into this, and they're going to, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, right? So, how do you manage that with your guys? Like, if if you guys that maybe are hanging out with the wrong group, have friends that may be trying to pull them back into alcohol, or maybe just a little bit more of a loose style of life or whatever, like what is your say on that?
My say is, look, the old saying, if you have 5 successful people that you hang out, you're going to be the 6th one, right? So if you have 5 guys going to the bar and drinking, and you're in my program and you're hanging out with those guys and you're trying to get a result, you're going to be that next guy, right? That is familiar to you. And that familiarity is what pulls people back in, because changing is hard. But with regards to cutting people out of my life, I will cut people out of my life like that, especially now with this diagnosis that I have and all of that. So I remember years ago, James DeMello said something to me that I thought was very arrogant back then, but now I get it more than ever, because James was in a leadership role before I ever was at the level he's at, and still is, coaching men and helping men. He said, Clark, my circle of influence is very small. I only let a few people into that circle. And I was like, man, that's kind of arrogant, But now I get it. Because we have to protect ourselves, we have to protect our energy from people who are going to waste our time. The amount of times that people have said, hey, bro, what do you think about me taking this supplement or that supplement? And I give them this long dissertation why they don't need this or that supplement. Then at the end, they say, well, do you know where I can get it? I'm like, you didn't listen to anything I said. I clearly told you that you don't need it, but you just wanted it. You wanted someone to help you make the choice to do it. And that's the same thing with drinking and all of these other things that aren't getting us to be a maximized man or the best version of ourselves. We're looking for an excuse on one side of the fence or the other. Well, I was with my buddies, everyone was drinking, so I just thought I'd have a drink, and then that led to one thing. It's like, you knew this was going to head you down a bad path. Why did you do it?
Yeah.
So with regards to those guys, I tell them like it is. I'm like, you either want to get results here or you don't. You hired me. You call me coach. Let me coach you. And I guarantee that I'll get you where you want to go. Never said it was going to be easy. Never said it was going to happen overnight. But I absolutely 100% know beyond a shadow of a doubt, anyone that joins my program will get results. And the number one thing I do is like, be patient, bro. Be patient. This ain't going to happen overnight.
Yeah. Results.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, that's an inside joke. That's we'll leave that one alone though. Yeah, you said something before we started here today. You had a phrase that you said that I know it got Zach's attention, and it was what was it?
Season, reason, or a lifetime. People are in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. So with respect to what we just said, very few people will be lifetime people, and most will be a season and a reason. We have to realize that when that season is over, we need to let them go. And we need to figure out what the reason was. Even if it was a traumatic relationship, like a guy-girl relationship broke up, like my son's going through right now, unfortunately, you have to look at the silver lining. What did I learn? What did that person bring into my life? And then you release them. It's like fear or anxiety. You can speak to that fear and anxiety and go, you know what? You served your purpose in my life. Thank you for teaching me these lessons that I could only have learned in that darkness, but I release you now. I don't need you anymore. You did what you came here to do.
Yep.
So if you look at a person in that same way, you put me through hell, I felt like crap, but you taught me this, what not to fall for the next time, how to know if someone's lying, how to know when someone's doing something nefarious. So then you can say, thank you for that. So you're not leaving with energy. Back to your point earlier about how you leave one thing is how you'll enter the next. If you leave a relationship with anger and bitterness and fear and all women are this or all men are that, you're carrying that into the next one.
Yeah.
And that's just negative energy you don't need.
Yeah.
So that happens physically, spiritually, emotionally, relationally, every aspect. So it's season, reason, lifetime.
Season, reason, and lifetime. That's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
When people have relationships that fail, and they carry with them that animosity towards that person, and they're always speaking to that animosity. They're always feeding that animal. It's going to be really hard for them to ever find some freedom unless they can go ahead, like you said, just release. Well, how do I release it? How do I get rid of How do I get that out of my head? Well, first of all, they're setting up shop in your brain rent free, and you're allowing that. But then when they say things like, when someone says something like, I will never trust another woman again. I will never trust another man again. I will never be able to be in a relationship like that ever again. And I have those people in my life. I have people that work for me that say, I will never do this again. People close to me. And I said, when you say that, do you know that you are giving the enemy, you are giving them legal access into your life to continue to wreak havoc because of your inability to say, that was terrible. That wasn't awesome if I look at it from my perspective of where I'm standing right now, because I'm looking at this big, huge failure, I guess, in my life. But if you say, but like you said, I gained this and I gained that and I gained this. Now I am smarter coming out of this than when I went in. But you know what? That right person is out there. That right relationship is there, and I am open to finding that. Now all of a sudden it's almost like you take this situation and the whole page starts to turn. The whole script begins to reverse, and things start to pan out because of your mindset towards a relationship, instead of just focusing on the woe is me, the Eeyore, and just being, I'll never find another like that. I can't believe that happened to me. And when you start thinking like that, man, of course failure is going to happen. If you look for it hard enough, you're going to find it.
Yeah. It's normal to have anger or this disbelief that it's possible to find somebody who's good. But the reality, what I tell my guys is it's okay to sit in that anger or that fear for a moment, but I give it a finite amount of time. Whatever emotion I'm feeling, and it's all a choice. Mm-hmm. We said being offended is a choice. Having joy is a choice. Mm-hmm. All of these things are our choice. If we're in that moment where we're like anger, every girl's a whore, every guy's an F-boy or whatever, that is a choice for you to believe that. But what I tell my guys in my coaching program is give yourself a finite amount of time. If you woke up, quote unquote, on the wrong side of the bed, which is not a thing, by the way, but if that is how you're going to frame it, say you wake up at 6 and you're not feeling good and you're thinking you're going to have a horrible day. I give myself to 6:30 to be what I refer to as a bitch-ass dude. I'm going to be a bitch-ass dude for 30 minutes and wallow in my sorrow. But when 6:30 hits, I'm done. I am choosing this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will be glad and rejoice in it. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. We've both read that book, and his voice probably bugs you if you listen to the audio as much as Paul Chek's did. I remember you saying, dude, I can't listen to him anymore. As smart as he is. But it's funny, I remember that. So I am living that way now more than ever since my diagnosis of cancer. And that's important to talk about, too, because I want every man who's watching this, you're in this demographic, go get your PSA checked. I'm on a mission now more than ever, even beyond my coaching program. It's given me a new platform and a closer connection, because part of the problem I had with advertising my program, I told you we're getting ready to scale, was having my ideal client connect with me, because I'm 60 and I'm in great shape. They're like, there's no way I could ever look like that guy. So it's easier in business if you're closer to your target demographic, because they believe they can get there. A lot of guys don't believe they could ever get to where I'm at. And that's not what I'm suggesting is possible. But now that I have this diagnosis, oh, this guy got cancer? I can too? Wow. Now I'm relatable all of a sudden. And people are connecting with me more. So I see it as an opportunity, and I've not put my head down once since Taylor, actually the other day, she was at the house and I was joking around. She said, you like having cancer, don't you? And I said, I'm glad you think that, but no, but I am taking the responsibility, and I don't think I'm a scapegoat or anything like that, or some kind of martyr, but I do realize it is an opportunity for me to broaden my message to men, because, men don't listen, man. They're tough, they're rugged, they're too busy, they're uninterested in learning if anything's wrong with them. But because of my style, men listen to me. They're like, oh, wow, this dude, I've been watching him for a long time on the internet. I better go get my PSA checked. She's like, you jerk, I've been telling you forever. Now this guy shows up and you're going to go? If I can be that person,
it takes.
Yeah, if I can be that person, then thank God.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It was 6 months ago. I was so low T. I went and I got my testosterone checked. This is just men's health 101, right?
Yep.
Go and get your checkup. I went my annual cancer check. I go to annual cancer screening, and I said, hey, while you're running all the blood labs and everything else, can you do a testosterone check? I was like, yeah, sure. And he called me 3-4 days later, whenever the labs came in, and he said, hey, can we talk about your T levels? Let me ask you a few questions. You tired a lot? I'm like, all the time. He goes, do you have like lack of energy and stuff like that? I mean, yep. Where's your libido? I was like, suffering. How about this aspect of libido? How about this? Are you sleeping? Are you, what time of day are you eating? He said, man, you are the classic case of low T. I said, well, where are my numbers at? And he said, well, this one ranges from here to here, and you're off the bottom of that one. This one over here ranges from, it's a really big scale. It's one like from 200 to 900. He said, you're in the basement of that one. You're still in the range, but you're really low. And so I got with the group called Opt Men's Health, and they started sending me like the testosterone therapy, and they said, I said, what's the downside? They said, there really isn't a downside except for you're going to have to do this for the rest of your life.
Yep.
I said, I'm okay with that. Am I going to sleep well at night? Like, yep, because I was sleeping 3 hours, 4 hours, and then I would wake up and I couldn't go back to sleep and pacing, thinking about stuff here at work and stresses and all these other things that are going on in my life, because I got a lot going on. As soon as I got on that, it didn't take but maybe 3 days, and I'm sleeping through the night. Everything else, I started getting some muscle mass back. I started, having the energy to be able to go and do stuff instead of just sitting there with a book or sitting there watching a TV show or something like that, which neither one of those are in my character, especially the first one. And it just changed my life, But with that, my PSA test has to be quarterly now. And it's because as soon as you start taking anything into your system, any kind of testosterone replacement therapy stuff, that stuff can start to, if there's a cancer in your body, it's going to feed that as well, along with sugars and a lot of these other things. And so as I started figuring that out, I said, well, I need to go and make sure that happens. So I've been doing that often. And so when I heard you, we talked on the phone one day, and he said to me, like, hey man, get your PSA check. Have you had your prostate, and it was, wow, I was still low T. I was like, no, man. In fact, I'm going to get my checkup here in a month or whatever. You're like, good. Make sure you get that check in there. And so, yeah, I remember that, but it has been, for me, knowing at my stage of life, being 53 years old, knowing that the cancers and the likelihood of cancer increases now the older that I get, because I got a lot of stuff in my history that is military and stuff like that I've taken into my system or been exposed to or whatever. And so now it's just being watchful.
Yeah, that's really what it is, too, is a lot of people misunderstand the whole diagnosis of cancer. It's really just a symptom, and I'm doing a deep dive diagnostic, and I went all the way back to when I was a Marine. I was a bulk fuel specialist, so I handle a lot of JP5 jet fuel. I've been doused from head to toe more times than I can tell you, and I was telling my integrative doctor, he's not really a standard of care allopathic guy, and that's kind of the route I'm taking because that's a whole different conversation. But anyway, he was asking me what all of my exposures were, and I said, I have a feeling that maybe this jet fuel had something to do with this, because it's not one thing, it's a collective of things. Just like getting in shape is not getting on the treadmill, it's a collective of things that you do. So it just so happened that the other day I said that to a guy who I think he's 27 years into a Navy career right now, very smart guy, trainer on the side, sent me an article in the Armed Forces magazine. In the front cover, it says jet fuel connected to cancer diagnosis in people. I'm like, wow. I knew it innately, and I knew it. But the whole point of that is a lot of people will treat the symptom and not the actual problem and do a diagnostic. And unfortunately, in our allopathic medicine in Western culture, they don't have the time or even the desire or the resources, 7 minutes that you have to see your doctor, to really understand the underlying factors, the chemical exposure, the bacteria, the parasites, the heavy metals, and all of the things that collectively enter into your body and have to manifest somehow, some way, somewhere. And mine didn't manifest in being overweight or any of these other things. I got prostate cancer, but one of the biggest things I think is the contributor is stress. Stress is the number one cause. And, there was a lot of marital stress for me at the time for a long time. I told you about that, and I'm telling everyone. I'm not hiding from it. And, Anita and I have worked through a lot of stuff, and I know that I can be healed of this by eliminating a lot of these things. And whether or not I need to do some of the standard of care treatments, that's yet to be determined. But I'm leaving no stone unturned. I am finding out everything. I'm shooting a documentary about it so I can expose men to the fact that there are alternatives to your urologist saying, hey, we need to cut this out, and just automatically getting something cut out of your body that you might not have needed to get cut out of your body. And what I'm telling guys is this: don't let your anxiety dictate your treatment, because that's what happens. I got cancer. I'm going to die. Get it treated, because everybody's going to be coming at you, all who love you and care and are concerned about you, saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? My answer is, trust me, I got this under control. I got a quarterback. I got a team. I'm learning. I'm doing things. Part of this fast that I'm on right now is just autophagy. I want to just turn over the cells, get rid of some stuff, slough some stuff off, see what happens. I had my PSA check before I came here. I'm holding steady. As long as I hold steady and I have no PSA velocity, as they refer to it, I'm good. I have time to look at these alternative treatment modalities. So that's where I'm at.
Wow.
Yeah.
How can people find you?
On Instagram, I'm at Clark Bartram. Anywhere, TikTok is the real Clark Bartram. Your son's over. He's like, he's on TikTok. I'm famous on TikTok, bro. I got like 1.3 mil on TikTok.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're an influencer. I'm a real life influencer.
I'm a real life influencer, man. But yeah, it's easy to find me. Just Google Clark Bartram. The program website is maximizemanelite.com. My website is clarkbartramsystems.com, which everything is now finally under one roof. For years, I had stuff just scattered out everywhere. I got a guy that put it all under one roof, and that is home base for me. So everything I have is there.
So yeah, we are so stoked that you came in here today, Clark. I had a blast with you as always, and to go back to something that you said earlier, reason, season, time frame, right? Those are three.
Reason, season, lifetime.
Lifetime. Yeah, your lifetime, man.
Amen.
And we will go years without talking, but then it's like, hey, dude, hey, I need a favor. It's like
Done.
drop right back into where we were before, and that's how you got somebody there who's just always gonna show up. It's I heard one guy on a podcast. It was a clip, something like what you do, and he said a 3 a.m. buddy. A 3 a.m. buddy is a dude that you can call and say, I need you now. And he knows that he better put a pistol in the back of his pants and probably bring a shovel, and it's that kind of guy. Not that I'm promoting that, but I'm saying is that
we get it.
That's the level of relationship that is lifetime. It's or in my world we call it ride or die. This is how we roll. And I'm so grateful to you because you introduced me to Pastor Greg, otherwise known as Dr. Greg now, and we and that guy has been instrumental. That guy has revolutionized, has changed my life, and now I'm honored to be able to walk beside him as we walk through our coaching stuff as well, which is very similar to yours. It's just that we're dealing more with what you got in the bed of the truck, right? Not so that the road in front of you can get easier. We're trying to offload your weight so that you can move easier. And I think it's awesome what you're doing with the coaching platform. Your guys, I loved your guys when I was there with them. Make sure you tell them I said hello, and Anita, and Mitch and Taylor. Tell them that I said hello. Oh, quick story, Mitch, for his, I think his 4th birthday, might have been his 5th birthday. I got him one of those helicopters that you hold the handle and you pull a ripcord, zzz, and the propeller starts going, and then you pull the trigger, and then it shoots up in the air. And I was like, Mitch, listen, the only place that this will work is in your living room. And you called me a couple days later. You're like, thanks, bro. I got a bunch of holes in my because the propeller had like a little pointy thing right in the middle of the propeller. Just punching
straight up. That thing was shot straight up fast too. It was like SSP.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks for being here today. It's been a blast, man.
I just want to tell you, and you're modeling behavior that men need to see right now in the vulnerability of your willingness to acknowledge the people that I've connected you with. So in response to that, I just want to tell you I love you, man, and I appreciate you so much. I love you too, dude. Because you are definitely a lifetime brother in my life, and I'm so grateful for what I've learned from you and the opportunity to sit here on your platform. I never take this lightly because you've built a platform, you've built a reputation, and men are watching you. And like my room, you will never let anyone in this door who you don't respect, appreciate, admire, and consider someone who's going to add value to what you're doing. So I feel honored for that. And thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of this. It's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Bram Radio. Stay dangerous.
Woo! Beautiful.